Welcome to the Universe Inside Our Mind. I'm Dr. David Jubb. We have an incredible show for you today. It's all about addiction. It's so amazing, you know, because we hear that word sort of all around us and it's like, oh my God, well, what is that? Well, I would really love for us to be able to define this so we have some insight into it. As far as a neurobehavior physiological perspective, addiction means any change in neurotransmission which can have become problematic. So it's any change in neurotransmission which can have become problematic, right? So we're filming this in the East Village. This show is coming to you. We have some wonderful people in our audience here, and we're going to take a small break when we do, and we've got some great bright people in our audience, and I'm sure they're going to keep all of us on the edge of our seat today with this show. Anyway, it's so amazing, you know, because as a neurobehavior physiologist, I sort of did all sorts of things, mostly sort of behavioral orientated, you know, therapy when I sort of began, and I used to do all sorts of work on this level. And one day I got a call from a father, and he said, well, that his son was an addict, you know. And I said, oh gee, oh that's you know, something, you know. And they said, oh yes, and anyway, is there something that you think you could do? And I thought, oh, I have a feeling there's something that's possible for me to assist your son with. Yes, you know. And anyway, the father asked, well, what would this entail? And I said, you probably might need to actually really bring everyone in who's in the family, and we all will actually connect together, you know. And the father went, oh, okay, you know. Anyway, so some time passed, and it came to be that everybody came filing in, and this was in Melbourne, Australia, and so they called, you know, gas, petrol there, you know. It's called petrol, not gas. And when they followed him, because I'd found out that he had an addiction to, you know, sniffing petrol, you know. And so anyway, and finally the family came in, the son came in, and as the son came in, you know, I said, so Roger, you know, I mean, what sort of petrol do you like? And the whole family sort of cracked up a little, you know. Roger did too, sort of cracked up. Everybody sort of had communicated and had been communicating to Roger as if he had no choice. And the moment that he came in, the very first thing I did was remind him that he certainly has choice. You know, they laughed that it's possible that he might be able to distinguish and sense some petrols are better than others. Just, you know. But the most important thing that I could see was when the phone call came, I could hear a lot of branding, labeling sort of, but you know, causing a person to sort of a behaviour that one has to have been considered the person's identity, which it's not, you know. So it's so amazing, you know, because well, English is sort of very new language, really. All the harder consonants and things have all been cleared away. It's sort of it's a very modern language, but addict is a very new word. It's so new, matter of fact, we don't even sort of quite know what to do with that word, you know. But the word idiot, that's an old word. Yeah, that's a real old word. It really is, you know. Idiot, that's an old word. And if you were in any of these 12-step programs and things, you know, a lot of people know me as Happy Face, you know. And if I ever went to one of those and I said, you know, well, you know, my name's Happy Face, you know, and well, I'm the adult child of a recovering idiot, you know. Most people would laugh hard at that, and they just wouldn't be accepting of the fact that I could be the adult child of a recovering idiot. Idiot's a very old word, and we know that it's not possible for someone to be an idiot. So now, wait a minute. You could have idiotic behaviour, but there's no such thing as an idiot. You know, you're not an idiot. No, that's just not right. One of the things you could say that really sort of happens to us in our thinking, as far as addiction is concerned, that's problematic. Any change in neurotransmission which becomes problematic. Certainly, the way that I can consider something about my beingness that is, I could be able to say no to something harmful. You know, being able to say no to harmful things, the more able that I am to be able to say no to harmful things, but that doesn't mean I might say no to all harmful things. I mean, you know, we say no, but we've got to do what we can to be able to say no to harmful things. And, you know, I'm not saying, gee, you know, well, you've got to let everything go, you know, and all the bread and the pizza, you know, and these calzones and coffees, and that's right, yeah. All of that stuff, you know. But it's so amazing because we live in a world where when we look at, well, let's look at society and let's get a bit of an idea. How many sorts of substances, more or less, are most people sort of bringing into their body on a daily basis that, you know, really is sort of like considered a drug? Well, a drug is any substance that's brought in which really creates some physiological change which cannot really be cleared properly. That's a drug. So, you know, there's most everything most people are taking in actually is a drug. Yes, it is. Of course, the breads are opiates. Enormous amount of opiates in the bread. Of course, all the flesh are like amphetamines and things. You know, that's exactly what it is. Taurine from flesh comes from the purine family. Same with caffeine. They're both stimulants. So people can be stimulating and sedating, and, you know, we even see advertisements and it says, you know, oh my God, it's got 4 times the caffeine or 12 times the caffeine. That's right. I need 12 times the caffeine. But doesn't that make you sort of feel, look, when you see this, when someone says, that's right, I need 12 times the caffeine the regular person does. Of course, we might not necessarily be looking at things like that because we go, oh yes, the tobacco industry, those buggers over there, that's right, they've really messed us up, you know. But couldn't we consider that much of the industry that we have at the moment, even all the fast food and things, is really the same, isn't it? I mean, really? I mean, why should we just sort of consider those things over there to be drugs, but all of the things like that people are consuming, which are completely dead, and satisfies the definition of a drug? It's a substance which comes in, has a physiological change in the body, and can't really be cleared properly. That's the definition of a drug, isn't it? So even the garlic that, you know, you sprinkle on the pizza, you know, the powder, that's a drug. And certainly, could we say most people in this convention are taking about, you know, when they've been surveyed, about 72 things a day. You know, little unique things, and 72 things a day. That's a lot. And, well, most of us might wonder, gee, well, we've seen these trees, that's right. Gosh, it looks like they could have been living for 3,000 years or something. It's like, it's a pretty long time, isn't it? And we've got these Gulf worms, beautiful sea anemones, you know, growing in the Gulf. And, you know, they can go for 300 years. We've got big turtles and things that live way over 100 years and things, you know. We've got parakeets and things that have lived for over 360 years that we know of. And but it's so amazing that if a tree drank just the vodka that one person drank in one afternoon binge, it could have killed that tree. You know, it's amazing, because maybe could we consider human beings that are extremely hardy when we consider this enormous amount of substance and things that could have been coming in, which really is a drug. But so what we're saying is, would it be possible maybe to let 68 of those things go? I mean, that might be noble to consider, you know, doing what we can to clear things away. So this really is more a program that's all about doing what we can to be able to say no to harmful things where we are, and doing what we can to start with the very things we just don't care much about. You know, if you don't care much about that, why not let that go, you know? Something that you care about, well, you know, maybe something happened when we were young or something, and maybe you need that just a little bit, you know, or something, I don't know. But why not start with the things you really just don't care much about? Start to clear some of those things away, you know. When I very first learned how detrimental a lot of all these cooked foods were, did you know that cooked food creates deficiency, and deficiency causes craving? So of course, persons can be craving, and in their feeling, all kinds of things could have been done to actually satisfy that. In relationship, with work, you know, in recreation, we can have always sort of been, other than in our meditative state, having this beautiful balance. So there could be dopamine and serotonin imbalances and things. When dopamine's less than present, you know, people are going and they're eating all of the breads and all the fried foods and things to get serotonin, and then all of the stimulating sorts of things that people do, you know, to sort of be able to maintain some sort of energy. But all of us could agree, gosh, we should do what we can not to be sort of doing that, like stimulating and sedating and stimulating and sedating. But lots of the foods that we eat in this world really does things like that, and it creates a deficiency. All deficiencies are caused because of what you have done, not because of what you haven't done. We're created sort of perfectly, and the very things I did that was not in sync is the very things that created insufficiency. Not, oh, I got to have more of this, that's right, oh, I'm missing something. It's like, oh yeah, let me take more of this. But why are you missing that? All deficiencies that are shown in the body can have occurred as a result of doing something which is really not natural. Then the ion channels within connective tissue and things can be less than working as well as what they can, you know, because minerals were less than kept in balance like they should be. Our connective tissue, really, everything sort of flows through our connective tissue. And could we say that all disruption to the ease, most people feel really happens more within connective tissue in the beginning, and then other things sort of, you know. But we have two primary forces that stimulate our cells to function. We have a nerve force, and we have a chemical force. And if the nerve and chemical force was taken up by a drug, and all of a sudden you just withdrew the drug, it's possible, bam, there was nothing to run the cells. Yeah. The person didn't die of having taken heroin away or something. No. They died of a toxicity and a lack of nerve force. And if they had had the heroin, then they would have lived. It's interesting for us to consider that the very things that one can have been doing and that the body got used to a certain to get its chemical and nerve force, we only can do things in a way that's very supportive of a person's body, and to do things in a way that's smooth. But if something was rapidly just taken away, it can cause insufficiency of itself and craving, and things have not really been satisfied. But it's so amazing, you know, have you ever heard of flotation tanks? When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about what happens when people get into these sensory deprivation tanks? We're going to talk about that in terms of addiction. This is Dr. David Jubb. This is the universe inside our mind. Stay tuned for some more exciting information coming up. Addiction do something with. Okay, we're back. Well, it's so amazing, you know, because behaviourally, certainly when somebody can have been labelled as being an addict, they could have put their whole identity in terms of a behaviour which that's really impoverished. It's empowering that I can see myself as pristine, and this is my identity, my true identity, and one's true identity is pristine like the sky. And you know, behaviours are like clouds which can kind of come and gone, but that's not identity at all. So one thing is taking charge of things more internally and saying, okay, I can do something about this. Why not begin with the things which are easy and clear some of those things away, and as you're clearing those away, you're having success. And that's so powerful for us to have success, because as we see that we've cleared away something, and over time you can go, well, that's right, you know, I used to really love French fries, and now, which is true, I used to love French fries, and now, you know, when was the last time I mean, I could eat them, maybe once every 4 or 5 months or something. I have a little French fries or something, I mean, you know, I went from loving that and just always having potatoes especially. I ate just an enormous amount of potatoes every which way, and I'd eaten more potatoes than anything else, you know. And I thought that might be not easy one, but there were lots of other things that I was eating which I knew that I could clear those things away, and I did clear all of those away. But it took me a little while to clear away bread, you know. I could hardly have a meal, like a live food meal, without seeing a piece of bread there. And there was something about the bread, but of course it's the opiates and things. So we do what we can to sort of substitute and find better things. But certainly, can we do what we can to stop the harmful things and say no, much more so, to harmful things, you know, and do those things less. And there might be something that you enjoy and you know that's not so good. Start with the very things that you can clear away. That's the most powerful thing that we can do. But it's so amazing that the very things that go on inside our brain when people have cleared something away, there's a strategy of doing a blowout, you know. And what I do is I take somebody in their mind through the whole process of having had something until finally they just like can't have any more of it. It's like, I can't have any more of that, you know. And they get the feeling of like what that is, and that can cause the person to really say, whoa, let me shift away from this. The kind of ideas could be more like, well, how would it be if I did this 10,000 times? You're doing it once, it's possible you could do it 10,000 times. This is called a blowout strategy. Sometimes somebody actually does that. They go out and they sort of binge or something, and then they go, that's it, you know, and that works for some people. But certainly in one's mind, one could have been taken through a process within the mind for something that you're consuming and you really would like to consume less of it. And so you could take a person through the process of becoming just overwhelmed with that substance to the point of all of a sudden a blowout, and that works the same in the mind as it would have as if the person had actually had the experience. But it's so amazing because sensorily, what happens sort of to people, you know, it could be just the crackle of the ice as, you know, the Schweppes is poured into the glass or something, you know, the cracking of the ice that you hear, that they make sure when they advertise things, they do little things like this, you know. But even without all of that, that's sort of how the mind kind of works, really. There could be little sounds, there could be visual pictures of things, and there could be feelings also. But to trigger us certainly when you walk past the bakery, though you were not necessarily thinking of anything, and all of a sudden you smelt, you know, some onions in the air, you know, or fried or something. It makes all people generally feel like, whoa, gee, I better, you know. Senses, the way we use our senses and things can have caused us to sort of be more having less control, or having control. Anything that you would love for your eyes to be able to skip over more. Like when you go into a convenience store to get things, there could be all sorts of things that you got, and when you've cleared something away, your eyes have skipped over that, and they sort of have a psychological blindness for that. But when we have an addiction for something, and I'm talking about it out of control, we could have more control if we could decide, okay, my eyes are going to skip over that packet of cornflakes from now on, you know, and bananas, yeah, and milk and sugar. Okay. So I used to go to the store, and my eyes every time I'd go down through would be looking for the cornflakes. Like, where's that? You know, like, you know, and it was just an automatic thing. I wasn't even thinking. But why not decide? Okay, that's it. If you decide, well, I'm going to be reducing or clearing away tobacco or something, clear away the paraphernalia as you can, so it's not in your eyesight or everywhere. But if you've got some situation and you've got it all around you and you have a great ability about to clear it away, that's wonderful. And little things that we are talking about here could be things that could assist to help us clear things away. But certainly we can clear things more away if I can be able to look at this little part that's not quite in sync with love. Because as I can look at any part that's a little bit not in sync with love, it's possible for me to organise to bring this more in sync. But if I'm not loving of this part, it's not easy for me to be able to look at this, to be able to make some decisions, to go, no, wait a minute, well, I could. But some great times to do this is when you're having a bath, after the bath, or in the bath. There could be some place where you are, where you've made great decisions, where you've reduced things that you've done behaviourally, and some great insights have come to you, you know, when you've been in the bath or some place. Could be a place where you sleep or rest, that this happens. But all of us do have this executive guidance component of our brain, but we only can have access to this more through interest. But where I had fear and it stopped me and I kept fidgeting, and finally I became aware of all my fidgeting and everything, and then I became aware of some great craving that was creating me to fidget, and then I can find more deeply what this is. I can scrub away at that. But if I'm able to be loving of myself, but if I was not really loving of myself because I felt, oh yeah, I'm pretty banal inside, you know, people taught me that I was bad, I can have thought this in terms of myself, and that could a cute trick that could have been done to me for me to less and have ease of ability to look within myself. When somebody's taught that they are bad, that's a cute trick that's done to them, that they would less and have ease of ability to be able to look inside themselves, you know. So the more that it's possible for me to be loving of myself and loving of this part of myself, it's possible for me to bring this more in sync. So could we say that much of the thing we could really have something more success with is the actual really loving of myself and doing what I can to take time to be able to rest and take time for one's own self. You've just done a show, enormous show, enormous amount of work up to this point. It's incredible. But have we scheduled some recreation? Have we scheduled a little travel somewhere? Have we scheduled to go visit someone you know, because we haven't been for a while. I mean, you know, that's so very important. We can schedule work and we can schedule all these things, and we live in a world that can have caused us to feel alienated, and we do all kinds of things to be able to feel whole again. When we come back, we're going to be talking more about addiction. This is Dr. David Jubb. This is the universe inside our mind. Stay tuned for some more exciting information coming up. Okay, we're back. It's so amazing. Look. Okay, we're back. You know, of course, you know, you guys really didn't get a break, but we did. We've only got a few minutes left of our program, and I just asked, well, what could we really say just in this few minutes? And some bright person mentioned, well, why don't we talk just a little bit about what the psychological sort of component really is there, you know, of addiction. I went, yeah, right. Because there's so many things, of course, but this one thing is a really beautiful component. Did you know that whenever I have lived in projection, wherever I want something for somebody else, and that, how can I do that? I can't do that for that person. But wherever I want something, I could have been living in projection. And when I want something for somebody else, and I've been living in projection, and that can't be, I've got to watch my energy field after that. You know, when a little dog got a big dog come and barked at a little dog, the little dog walked just for a little while and then shook that off. You know, it actually had to shake a little bit of an energy off. And when we are going around thinking in terms of wishing something for somebody else, but it can't be, so it causes us to have to go out to have a good meal. We've got to go for a walk, you know, got to go see a film, got to go listen to some music, got to go do something, and of course this assists us to help us wash our energy field. But if we really are able to live more in unconditional being, this is probably the most godlike way for us to be. This is the mountain standing unmoved, breathless in the wind. Anyway, there's so much that we could say. I hope that I've jogged your interest to learn a little more about this and apply some of the things we've been talking about. Anyway, this is Dr. David Jubb. This is the universe inside our mind. Stay tuned for some more exciting shows coming up.
Bravo, David. Good.
This is Dr. David Jubb. I hope you really enjoyed this show that we just did. People enjoyed this so much, maybe we should have part 2. We're talking about addiction. Anyway, love you guys. Catch up to you in a future show. Minute of Black, and we're done. And then we'll write on that box what this is.
It's still hooked up.
Oh yeah, but I'm not on the show.